I'm often asked is, what are the triggers for more sanctions, firstly? I think the triggers for more sanctions would be more aggressive Russian cyber operations. So, potentially another big ransomware attack or a big espionage attack. Human rights abuses, say if Navalny were to die in prison, which he has come very close to doing already, and more provocative foreign policy actions. So things like a big escalation in the conflict in Ukraine. And, who would these sanctions target? I think potentially the secondary market for Russian sovereign debt, broad economic sectors of importance, or more measures on key oligarchs or, figures close to Putin. And the other question that I hear a lot is, do sanctions actually work? There's been such heavy sanctions on Russia in place since 2014, and are they actually doing anything? And I think, first of all, you need to consider that, there is incentive for Putin to find a way to limit the potential for stronger sanctions, because they obviously hurt Russia's long-term economic growth. However, the Kremlin's broader foreign policy objectives are not going to change anytime soon. And I think in terms of, how well the sanctions work, I think they work if they're applied carefully. There's a case to be made that sanctions after Russia shot down the MH17 flight over eastern Ukraine, they sort of helped stop a bit of territorial expansion. So they can work on occasion, but what they're not really going to change is Russia's goals. And those foreign policy goals that we talked about earlier. I think, another interesting point on, how well do sanctions work. A good example is sanctions that were imposed on Rusal, in which the US de facto sanctioned its European allies, given the interconnections in the aluminium industry. Some of this intentional on Moscow's part, as it sought to kind of buy up different European assets to build dependencies on Russia. So that is another kind of pitfall of sanctions there. And I think, just to finish off that section, I think even if Russia does manage to avoid major new economic sanctions, by treading carefully, not intervening anymore in Ukraine, the fear of sanctions is still going to weigh very heavily on the investment climate in Russia, and that is going to be a problem for Putin. And of course, foreign companies partnering with state-linked firms operating in Russia are going to continue to face significant compliance risks as well as reputational risks, which really highlights the importance of your due diligence in market entry. Finding out who you're partnering with. A lot of the time, in specific sectors, you will have a government figure or oligarchs involved, and even if they're not currently under sanctions, there is likely a very big potential for them to fall under future sanctions if they are expanded, particularly by the US.